Hey everybody, Kewalski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Star Trek Picard discussion videos. So today I'm going to take a quick moment to try to explain where the Picard show itself is fitting within these Star Trek timelines. There were a lot of comments on the last couple of Picard news videos that I did where people seem to not really understand exactly where the show is placed, and there's a lot of misinformation out there in regards to what the original canon timeline is mixed with the prime canon timeline and the Kelvin timelines and all this other stuff. So I want to try to go ahead and give the real answer as best as I can possibly make it, and then maybe address some of the other concerns and stuff like that as they kind of potentially could come up in your comments. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is this really great timeline graphic that I have created here. So on this graphic, you see that we have First Contact all the way on the left there, and then all the way up into the beta canon that is Star Trek Online. Now, I put the beta canon on this timeline basically just to go ahead and try to showcase how these different elements like Star Trek Online and the Countdown comic could potentially be influencing that of Picard, because you see it kind of sandwiched in there between the two of them. So there's a lot of potential for influences there to kind of allow the story to be fluxed based off of the other things that they've done, or the uniforms that we've already seen kind of connected back to Star Trek Online and kind of the Countdown comic. So there's already some of that going on, I think, in my mind. So those are there for that, but they're not to be counted as alpha canon or taken any more seriously than just potential influences to what could be appearing on screen. Remember, on screen is the alpha stuff. That's what's important. That is what's on the television show and on the movies. Though that's alpha canon. Okay, so clear as day, there is one straight timeline here, and you can see it. It goes from First Contact all the way to the Picard show now, which is 2388, or possibly around that time period. The only thing that has happened that has affected these timelines overall is Romulus was destroyed in 2387. This was featured in the prequel comic, the Countdown comic, and in Star Trek 2009. In that film, Spock, from the regular old original timeline that we all grew up on, that we've all watched for years, attempted to stop a supernova from destroying Romulus. That Spock failed, but he still stopped the supernova from destroying the rest of the quadrant or whatever it was. When he then fought with Nero during that time period, the both of them were sucked into a black hole and thrown all the way back into the year 2233. Once the Narada arrived, which was years before Spock did, the Narada destroyed the USS Kelvin, as saw in Star Trek 2009, and once that happened, boom, the Kelvin universe, Kelvin timeline, however you want to say it, was created. Now, that is the divergent point from everything else that we know inside of regular Star Trek. So why is that important? Well, there is quite a bit of misinformation out there in regards to what prime canon timeline is, and the prime original timeline, and the Kelvin timeline. Listen, all of that stuff is based up on some rumors and some ideas that several people came up with. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the worst and the most idiotic idea ever, and I know a lot of people like it because it separates what they view as bad Trek from the original Trek, which basically means that Discovery, Picard, any new Trek shows, and the Kelvin timeline films are all in this separate prime timeline, and the canon timeline, the original canon timeline, is all separate. That's all the original movies and the original TV shows is over here, and this stuff is over there, and that there's this kind of, I don't want to say conspiracy, but basically this idea that CBS is trying to trick everyone into thinking all of the new Star Trek stuff is connected back to the old Star Trek stuff, when in reality it's all just connected to the Kelvin stuff. And listen, all that stuff is based off of license agreement issues, this whole idea that Secret Hideout is a front for Bad Robot, who is producing Star Trek Discovery and all these new Trek shows, and that everything is being controlled by Bad Robot and Paramount, and CBS is just letting them do whatever they want because it's just boosting up CBS All Access numbers and they don't really care. That's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation, a lot of misinformation. I've covered a lot of the hard evidence that these guys and gals have used to try to, maintain their claim on this in this video here, which I'll link down below. Go ahead and check that out. I'm not going to go ahead and break all that stuff down. But again, that's all due to licensing issues, which I don't particularly agree with, and I have a lot of reasons for that. And you should go check that out before commenting down below so that you understand exactly what my position is. A lot of people will sit there and say things like, well, Kewalski, what about that Screen Rant article that clearly said that Bad Robot was in production of Star Trek Discovery and it was owned by Paramount? Well, yeah, right. Listen, I've done a lot of research on this. I reached out to the author of that article. He told me that he didn't really do too much research except for watching a few videos on YouTube, and I'll give you one hint as to what channel he was watching. And I provided him with some additional details. Him and his editors reviewed it, and lo and behold, their article has now been updated with the correct information in regards to who is in fact producing Star Trek Discovery, and that it isn't a part of the Prime timeline. Like, listen, you got to really think about these things critically. You got to look at the evidence. Don't just take these videos at face value and then just move on. You have to formulate your own opinions and dig real deep. I really encourage everyone not to just watch a few videos here and there. If you're really passionate about this and you really want to believe and understand what's going on, you got to dig really deep, and quickly skimming those top videos is not the way to fully understand what's going on. That's a good way to get misinformed and to be upset potentially for no reason, because things may not be as bad as you might have originally thought based off of that. So just keep that in mind, that the Screen Rant article, like, I don't know, a lot of people were upset about that because it clearly showed that, like, it was wrong. And the guy got bad information, and he has updated it. So that's just another example of, like, one more, link in the chain of things that people were pointing to as evidence that doesn't really pan out. So the reason, again, why I bring this up is because some folks were saying, well, Picard is dealing with the destruction of Vulcan and Romulus, or it's just the destruction of Vulcan or the destruction of Romulus. No. This is the same Picard that we've always known. When Patrick Stewart said at the announcement that it's going to be a different Picard than we've come to know and love, that wasn't an implication of timelines. That was an implication of time having passed and this Picard having been much older than the last one we saw in Star Trek Nemesis, and other things have happened. He's not going to be the exact same character that we know, not the same, the different person from a different universe. That's not what he meant. Okay, that's very clear. That's obvious. That's not what he meant. I don't know why people assume that's what he meant, but they're just looking for a reason to keep their old stuff separate from the new stuff because they don't like the new stuff. That's my opinion. I think that's why people do that. This is the same exact Picard that we've all grown up with. It's the exact same Picard. There is no difference. The only thing, you have the original timeline, which is Prime, and you have the Kelvin timeline, and then Mirror Universe kind of wavers through that. We don't talk about that right now. That's not what this video is about. Anyways, guys and gals, I know a lot of you are going to be super upset by this video because you don't agree with this and you want it to be different. You want it to be separated because then you can feel like you can, I don't know, stomach it or just wrap your head around Discovery being so different. I know that's a lot has to do with the way the Discovery is treated and the way it was received by fans. I know that's a lot to people to feel that way. But I know you guys are going to be upset about it, but I'm sorry, this is just it. Like, there is no evidence to support that any of this stuff that these guys, they're just saying this stuff. They don't know what they're talking about. And they just want it to be true, but it's not. That's it. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Feel free to go ahead and start flaming me down in the comments, and I'm curious to hear what all of you guys think about this. Did this make this video, did understanding the timeline make it easier, or did I just confuse all of you more? I'm curious. So go ahead and throw your comments down below, and I'll catch all of y'all next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!